It's time for Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem Weeks, author, producer, and marketing monster for independent multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another Wednesday evening. It's time for another episode of the Voice of Indie podcast. This is episode number 225, and I am your host, Beem Weeks, and with me is Mr. Stephen Gies over there. How are you doing tonight, Stephen?
Well, I'm doing all right. We're kind of running around scrambling here. Couldn't get the microphone to be recognized. And finally, I'm online and ready to go, and our guest is not here yet. So We'll just have to play it by ear here for a little bit, see if he makes it in. If not, we're going to wing it tonight. Are we having fun, Beem?
We are having fun. We are looking at possible first bits of snow here in Michigan tonight. Just supposed to be a light dusting, but it's getting cold. It was cold and rainy today, and we've been fortunate. We've had pretty much nice 50-degree weather all through the whole month of November, which is kind of out of the ordinary, but now we're going to start looking like Michigan. So there you go.
Oh, yeah. So we've got in our bullets here on our rundown, we've got 3 or 4 things pertaining to Robert G. Williscroft. So we're going to ask him to call in rather than us reading these. We can talk to him about them here in a couple of minutes. We do want to mention, he's on hold. All right, great.
He's on hold.
We want to mention author Nelle Cooper, who's been shooting up our bestseller lists lately. And when we get to tonight's top 25 sale list, I got a feeling we're going to make her smile. Her book, Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow, she's been having a blast with it. She's working the area, especially around the thumb area of Michigan, where the Lapeer State Home is, which is where the book is set. It's a historical novel, and which is the area where she lives as well. So she's managing to get into bookstores. She's holding events. She's doing signings. I think there's something about renting a blimp next. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But it's always nice to be getting notes from authors about, hey, sold some books at my event last night, or hey, the mail lady who's been delivering my boxes of books told me she bought a copy and she's loving it, So that's always a lot of fun. So that book
that's
is
always
Nowhere,
cool to hear.
Yeah, Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow, and that's by Nelle Cooper. And Beam, since you've got it loaded up, why don't we go ahead and play that trailer while we're talking about it right now?
All righty, let me scroll through here and find out where I parked that. It's right there.
In 1948, 8-year-old Kay is at Oakdale, the Lapeer State Home in Michigan, where people of all ages with physical and mental aberrations come to live. Kay wonders why she is here and if she will ever leave. She cares for an infant who will not let anyone else feed her, and she has friends, especially a boy her age she calls Toe. When Kay and Toe grow close as teens, she discovers the home has scheduled surgery that will change her life. With the clothes she's wearing and the file containing her life story, Kay flees late one dark night. Toe tries to chase after her, but a fateful accident robs him of the chance to seek the love of his life. Will Kay ever experience the kind of family she has longed for? Published in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook editions by Fresh Ink Group, Nelle Cooper's Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow is a historically accurate coming-of-age story about identity, belonging, and learning to choose one's own destiny. Read Nelle Cooper's Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow.
All right. So there you go. Yeah, that is a fantastic book. Nelle is such an amazing storyteller, and I gave that a 5-star review. If I could have gave it 10, I would have. It's just a really good story.
You and I both worked on editing that book. Since you know the story, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, the story, like the ad there just said, this is this girl. She grows up in the state home, and that's pretty much her life. And she becomes friends with this boy there, and they grow up together. But when they become teenagers, they kind of grow closer, and there's some feelings there, and so the home, they decided that they're going to send her away to the hospital for a surgery so that, nothing unexpected happens, and when she catches wind of it, she leaves. She, in the middle of the night, grabs basically the clothes on her back and her file, trying to, take what she can, her history with her, and she sets out for a place where she and the boy Toe say that they would meet if they were ever separated. And he leaves to go find her and has an accident which kind of slows him down. It almost costs him his life. And eventually he does make it there. And does he find her or not? You'll have to get the book and find out. But it's a nice story. We do have over here on Twitter real quick. We have Verwayne Greenhill. He says, Lisa and I are in my office with a 12-pack of Diet Coke and a bag of barbecue chips, ready to listen to Stephen G's and Beem Weeks talk with Dave Hooker. Well, Dave's not here.
Yeah, how many people really know the Cheech and Chong reference?
Yeah, I should have grabbed that Cheech and Chong, that Dave's not here thing for a drop. Dave's not here. No, man,
for
I'm
those
Dave.
of you who don't know,
Open
Cheech
up.
and Chong was a comedy team that was real popular in the 70s and 80s, and they did a whole lot of marijuana humor. And one of their skits is that somebody's knocking on the door, and
it's Dave.
It's Dave. Who is it?
Dave's
It's Dave.
on the door
Dave's
saying,
not
"Let me
here."
in, man." No, I'm Dave, man. Let me in. Hurry up. The police are here. The cops are here.
Yeah, I'm finally to the age now to where I have to explain what Cheech and Chong is to I had to do that with some grandsons last week when I made a Cheech and Chong reference. Who?
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm guessing a lot of the people listening to this show probably already remember Cheech and Chong, but
well, yeah, you never know. So anyway, as we look at our rundown here, our next point here is about some Williscroft books, what's going on with 3 different series of his and his audiobooks and stuff. And since we've got him on the line, instead of us talking about him, we can ask him some questions and let him tout his books.
All right. So here we go. We're going to bring Dr. Williscroft. How are you there, Robert G. Williscroft?
I am here.
Hey, Robert.
Greetings and welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So in our notes here, we were going to talk about, Iapetus Federation and how that's now completed the saga, and then move on to Ort and Mac McDowell. And we've got the Ivy Bells commercial loaded up, so when we get to that, we can play that too. But why don't we start with the Star Child saga and tell us how that went from the Star Child trilogy to a saga, and what all's going on there, and why we should care, and why to get our copies now.
Okay. Well, the Star Child saga started off with Slingshot, which is the story of the development and building of the first space launch loop. I had spent a year doing research at the South Pole, and I took some research papers down there with me. One of them was by a gent, Keith Lofstrom, who invented the space launch loop, which is something that can be built with today's technology. When I came back out of the South Pole, I went and visited him. We spent several days together, looked at the whole system from an engineering point of view, and then sketched an outline for the novel. And then I wrote the novel, and that became the first in what eventually was the Star Child trilogy. Incidentally, that novel was launched at the International Space Elevator Conference in Seattle, and every space elevator scientist on Earth has a copy of Slingshot on his desk.
Mm.
Cool.
So
yeah.
The next book was Star Child Compact. It's based on an interesting hypothesis that Saturn's moon Iapetus is actually a derelict starship. And I came upon that because the density, it has the density of a snowball, the density of that moon, but it's a solid rocky moon, and it has a ring around the equator that's about 20 kilometers high and 20 kilometers wide. It kind of looks like a walnut from some distance, and the only way that makes sense with all of the numbers is that it's at least partially hollow. And I ran the numbers and thought, well, what if it's a derelict starship? And that became the basis for the Star Child Compact. The Iapetus Federation is a continuation of the characters and the plot in Star Child Compact, carrying it further where Earth's nations are dealing with a global jihad perpetrated by a very charismatic new Muslim leader, and people are trying to get off Earth, and they end up creating a series of independent units in the solar system comprising the Iapetus Federation. And they eventually reach out and develop a star drive and are able to get to one of the nearer stars. While I was doing all of this, I came across an article about a consortium in Germany that was developing a hard shell wingsuit. And that fascinated me, and I thought, what if we gave the SEALs the plans for this hard shell wingsuit and let them develop it and put this development into the world of Slingshot, where they have easy access to orbital heights. And so I ended up with 4 fairly long stories that together comprise the Daedalus files, where the SEALs actually develop this hard-shell wingsuit and end up being able to drop as a squad from anywhere in orbit to anywhere on Earth in combat. And because that fit right into the Slingshot scenario, it became the second book of what then we renamed the Star Child Saga.
And Daedalus is 4 novellas, correct?
It's 4 novellas, each one interconnected. They can be read independently, but it's best read as a book.
Cool.
So
now this is available out there entirely? I mean, all 4 editions as part of
all
the Star
4
Child
editions
Saga?
are available out there, and the Iapetus Federation, which just hit the streets several days ago, is really doing well. It keeps dropping down into the low 100s in the Amazon bestsellers.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Great.
And then is that lifting the other 3 in the series as well?
Yes, they list all of them. The only thing that's missing right now on Amazon are the reviews, all the reviews that I got from the earlier edition of the book. Amazon promises me they'll be over there, but they're not there yet.
Yeah, Amazon is always in a hurry, we've noticed.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got a good relationship with the people there. I can compliment them on the hard work and thank them when they get something accomplished, and they treat me nicely.
Yeah, I remember about 20-something years ago when Ann was our managing director, and she was banging her head against the wall dealing with Amazon, and she finally found somebody there who could, do miracles. And I remember she called me up, and she was just so excited. She says, "I finally got my Amazon contact." And I'm thinking, yeah, until the next time you try. And
yeah.
I think we've all had that great contact at Amazon at least a dozen times over the years, but they're always gone next time we go back. So,
well, the thing with Amazon though is with some of the contacts, I've had some that telling me, "Well, I can't do that. I can't do that because they have the Indian accent in there. Some of them are just really hard to understand. But they'll tell you they can't do that. Then they'll be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I actually can do that," and then they'll take care of it. It's like, "Oh, thank you. All right." Well, here recently, what I'm discovering is that they've made some changes. So when they say they can't do that, they really can't do that. It used to be like, say, Robert Williscroft calls them up, and they tell them, "Well, your publisher has to do that." So then he lets me know that. I go over there and take care of it. But now they're saying, no, it's got to go back to the author for Author Central and for some of these things, and it's just crazy that they don't stick to the plan.
Yeah, and some of our authors opt not to have Author Central pages too. So it's kind of like, well, if you're not going to play, then you can't play. So when we do that,
I think an Author Central page is essential.
I do
yes,
too.
It is.
Yeah, you cannot function on Amazon without it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, but that again comes down to the author has to do that through his own Amazon account. So we try to do things for authors as much as we can. Some of them we have to do a lot for. Some we don't have to do very much because they get out there and run with it and do things for themselves. But that Author Central, it's critical. Although they have cut back substantially on how much stuff they let us put over there, which is kind of frustrating. We used to put our book trailers. Yeah, the videos are gone, and we used to put live feeds to our social media platforms, so you could go to an Author Central page and see what's happening in that author's Twitter account. All of that stuff is gone now.
Yeah,
but anyway,
too complex.
Yeah. It's the Star Child Saga, 4 editions in the series by Robert G. Williscroft. People, get out there and check that out. So, Robert, we want to ask you about the Mac McDowell Mission series now, and since we have Ivy Bells loaded up, we'll go ahead and start with the commercial for that.
Okay.
All right. I have to find this because we're not going in order. Here we go.
Now, from Fresh Ink Group and best-selling author Robert G. Williscroft, Operation Ivy Bells, a Mac McDowell Mission. An update of the popular bestseller now launching the Mac McDowell Mission series. Saturation Dive Team Officer in Charge Mac McDowell faces the greatest challenge yet, leading his team into a critical Cold War mission of counter-Soviet espionage and proving what brave men can achieve under real pressure, the kind that will steal your air and crush the life out of you. Operation Ivy Bells is proudly published in hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats by the Fresh Ink Group.
Now that trailer was for the first book. We do have a trailer for the first 4 books, but he's past that now, so we're in the process of updating the trailer for the entire series. That also is the only Williscroft trailer we have that it does not have Trenton Bennett as the voiceover. We used the cheap guy on that one, apparently. Yeah. So, what is this series, Robert? Who is Mac McDowell? Why do we care?
Well, during the Cold War, I was a submarine officer and a saturation diver. I'm not going to go into what saturation diving is, except it allows you to go very deep for a long period of time. I've been diving down to 1,000 feet, breathing exotic gas mixtures. Anyway, I took a group of saturation divers on a submarine into the Sea of Okhotsk between Kamchatka Peninsula and northern Siberia, and on the ocean bottom, we locked out of the submarine and tapped into Soviet underwater communication cables. That was a huge adventure and the biggest intelligence coup of the Cold War. When Reagan and Gorbachev had their summit in Reykjavik, we had found from our tap that there was a plot in Russia led by their equivalent of our chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff to assassinate Gorbachev. We got the word to Reagan, and Reagan told Gorby, and Gorby left in the middle of the summit meeting to go back to Moscow and take care of business. The news media made the assumption that Reagan had screwed up and Gorby was left in anger, but in fact, that was the beginning of a lifelong close friendship between the two because Reagan saved his life.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the first book. The second book picks up with a submarine that has been modified to handle saturation diving and cable laying, called the USS Teuthus. Teuthus is a type of orthocone, a type of shelled critter with lots of tentacles, and it and the crew is made up of the dive team that was in Operation Ivy Bells, plus others. The submarine goes up west of Greenland, lays a cable for monitoring Soviet traffic coming through the Arctic ice pack, Then they cross under the Arctic ice pack over north of Barrow, Alaska, and they lay another monitoring cable up there. And this is the story of that. And they're dogged by a Soviet Alpha submarine the whole time, and it's an exciting underwater story. The third book, Operation Arctic Sting, picks up with the crew of that Alpha submarine having to abandon it because they use a metal cooled reactor. If it cools down too far, the reactor becomes a solid chunk of metal, is useless, and they had to abandon. We end up assuming control of that submarine, and my guys take it underneath the Arctic ice pack to the U.S. East Coast, to New London, Connecticut, where we have a submarine base, dogged the entire way by Soviet submarines that either want to get their submarine back or want to sink it.
Yeah.
The next book.
But before you get into the next book, have we met the giant squid by the third book?
The giant squid we met in the beginning of the second book.
Okay.
During pin trials. It was they were out in Hudson Canyon off of New York, and we're talking a squid it's kind of like a squid. It's an orthicone. It has a shell, and it was about 50 feet long, and it attacked the divers when they were down on the bottom. And it was quite an exciting event for them, since this critter was supposed to have been extinct for several million years.
Now, is this based on something true that you guys had happen to you?
These orthocones may very well still be around. That particular incident, as described in the book, didn't happen. Okay. However, going back to the first book, Operation Ivy Bells, it starts off with an incident at 1,000 feet with three divers, Mac, the protagonist, and two of his divers, being attacked by Humboldt squid, who are communicating with each other in colors, flashing colors. And they barely escaped that. And that happened. That's for real.
Yeah. Yeah, I got attacked by a cuttlefish one time, and that thing was only 4 feet long, and it was mean. I mean, it wrapped me with its tentacles, jerked the regulator out of my mouth.
He was trying to cuddle with you?
Like that. Yeah, just imagine a fish like that has 8-foot-long tentacles and a carapace that's another 6 feet long.
Yeah, I was imagining it while that little 4-footer was attacking me. But that was a fun one because I came across him at night. It was a night dive, and it was under a pier. And he was down there trying to get it on with a female cuttlefish. And he was dancing and flashing lights and doing colors and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you interrupted him.
And I wandered right up into the middle of that with an underwater camera thinking, I'm going to shoot this. And he thought I was after his woman. And, man, it was on. Wow, was it on.
And they're pretty bright. The cuttlefish are a lot brighter than your typical underwater critter.
Yeah, well, I was convinced that he understood that in order to breathe, I needed that thing in my mouth, because he went straight for it, jerked it out of my mouth, and held it away from me where I couldn't get to it. I had to get his tentacles off of me to get to that regulator, and it was because it was on the end of a hose that he didn't take off with it. So I think he was that smart. I really do.
Yeah, I would not doubt it at all.
Yeah, next time I'm not going to bring flowers for the female cuttlefish either, because that just sets off the men. Well, what about the orca? Have we met the orca?
I was just about to mention that. In Operation Arctic Sting, there's a scene where the divers are attacked by a female polar bear who thinks they're after her pups. And an orca shows up and takes care of the polar bear, and then befriends the divers, and the orca, whom they name Borisko, which is Ukrainian for warrior, accompanies them throughout all of the other books in the series.
Oh, cool. So we're going to keep seeing the whale, even in future books, eh?
He's going to be there.
All right. Well, I like the whale. The whale is definitely cool. Beem, what we got going over on Twitter before Robert moves on to the next book?
Yeah, over on Twitter, let me hit the refresh here. There we go. For anybody that didn't get that never heard the Dave's Not Here thing, Verwayne Greenhill posted a video of Cheech and Chong's Dave's Not Here, and it's funny. If you've never seen it, go over there and check it. It's old school humor from the 70s, but that's cool. And then Verwayne also says, I hit 34,000 words today in my latest story, The Russian Guy Down the Road. I'm very happy with how this true story is unfolding. And that sounds like it's going to be an interesting story. Verwayne's told us a little bit about it, and I'm looking forward to that coming out. So,
all right. So we're talking to Robert G. Williscroft, and right now we're talking about the Mac McDowell Mission Series. But if anybody wants to call in and talk to us or Robert, or we're going to see if we can get the whale into the studio too. That phone number is 516-453-9902. Give us a call. So we're on the Mac McDowell Mission Series. What's that?
I said I could have hit the bumper since we haven't played it.
Yeah, in fact, why don't you hit it? Why don't you go ahead and hit it?
It's only 18 seconds.
Call 516-453-9902 right now with your questions or comments for tonight's guest. Or post a note on Twitter with hashtag Fresh Ink Group in the body of the tweet, and we'll read it on air. That's 516-453-9902 or hashtag Fresh Ink Group on Twitter.
All right. So we're talking to Robert G. Williscroft about the Mac McDowell Mission Series. We've talked about the first 3 books so far, including the opener, Operation Ivy Bells. Before you tell us about that 4th book, Robert, Operation Ivy Bells, it's got a 4.4 average rating on Amazon. Have you noticed how many reviews are over there?
I've got 486 reviews.
486 is the number I've got, which means that you're getting pretty close here to hitting 500 reviews, north of 4.0 on the ratings. That is really good, very impressive. Congratulations on that. And want to underscore, people, if you're out there buying books off Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or if you're a member of Goodreads or have other places you can post reviews, do post reviews for these books. It really helps your favorite authors out a lot. It helps their books. It tells companies, retailers like Amazon, that people are liking this book and they should be recommending it to more people. So post those reviews, people. All right, Robert G. Williscroft. We're on the Mac McDowell Mission Series, and we're up to book number 4, which is already out there right now. And what is that one, Robert?
Operation Whiteout. In this book, the Toothus and the submarine are assigned to go down to the Antarctic waters to lay acoustic arrays looking north in the Atlantic and in the Pacific. At this point, Mac has reached the level where he is the executive officer of the submarine, so he's second in command, which gives him a lot of responsibilities. And Hamilton, who was his original dive supervisor, is now in charge of the divers. But they've all got a close working relationship, and Mac finds a way to get into the water a couple of times, even though he's the XO of the sub. And they find themselves dealing with Chi-Com submarines, Argentine submarines, and Soviet submarines. And it becomes a very interesting cat and mouse game in the frigid Antarctic waters.
That was a fun cover to work on as well. White on white on white. Operation Whiteout with a white polar bear and a whole lot of white.
Well, the 5th book is based on an incident that took place in 1979 called the Vela Incident. One of our hotel satellites in polar orbit detected an unauthorized nuclear test off of South Africa near the Prince Edward Islands. And the investigation showed that it was most likely a combined operation with the Israelis and the South Africans, where the South Africans supplied the uranium and the Israelis built the bomb and then they tested it. Now, nobody's ever admitted that this happened, but it did. There's a lot of data out there that shows that it really did happen. And the book relates that incident and then picks up 10 years later when the Israeli intelligence contacts our State Department, informing them that although they're not involved, they have learned that the South Africans are about to run another nuclear test, this time with a small backpack type of a nuke. And Toothus, with Mac, now as the commanding officer, is assigned to go to the Prince Edward Islands surreptitiously and prevent the test from taking place.
Wow. Okay, great.
Now, I got a question. You're talking about nobody's ever, verified that this happened and so on and so forth, but apparently it really did. And we've talked about this when you've been the guest on the show. When you put some of these things in these books, do you have to kind of sidestep certain things, or do you reach out to somebody that you know that's still in the military and get clearance for this? I mean, how does this work so you don't go and put something out there and then you get the knock at the door? Hey, what do you talk about this for?
Exactly the way you described it. I reach out to contacts. I have real people playing roles in the books, but these are real people who are no longer alive. So I structure the stories so that they, in the case of Vela Redux, the State Department, George Shultz, the president, is first Reagan, and he turns it over to George H.W. Bush, and the National Security Advisor and others are involved, but they've all passed away. And so I'm able to research the way they expressed themselves, the kinds of things they did, what their perspectives were, what their politics were, and then I can have them behave almost exactly the way I think they would have behaved under these circumstances.
Okay, so then you've never had that knock at the door?
I have not had that knock at the door.
Okay.
I did have one fellow writing a review for Operation Ivy Bells who said, I was a sailor on the Halibut, the ship where all of this takes place, and if Williscroft had been more accurate, he'd be in jail now.
Well, that's kind of scary, but it's also that's a strong review. It lets people know that, hey, this guy's knows what he's talking about. Yeah,
especially when you get into historical fiction, so many people just make up the details instead of doing the legwork or having, in your case, the experience of having participated in the real thing. And that authenticity matters.
I have thousands of pages of research.
And don't post it all online. All right, so you've talked about 4 so far. We've got Operation Vela Redux.
Actually, I talked about 5.
5, and then we've got Operation Alpha Rogue. So what's happening with that?
Well, at the end of Vela Redux, Mac and his friend Sergei Andreev, who showed up initially in Operation Ivy Bells as a captured Russian diver, although he states, I'm not a Russian peasant, I'm a Ukrainian. Anyway, he becomes close friends with Mac, and he has an uncle who was one of the Ukrainian oligarchs. The uncle passes away and leaves everything to Sergei. So Sergei has virtually unlimited funds and manages to get his hands on the Alpha submarine that Mac and his people captured and does some modifications to bring it into the modern world. And Mac ends up cutting a deal with the U.S. government. The Navy promotes him to admiral, and he retires and immediately receives letters of marque from the president with the task of going out and doing things that the United States government cannot officially do, but they can assign him to tasks and point him in the right direction and supply him with things he needs. And he's in this incredible submarine that has capabilities way beyond anything that we have seen heretofore. And that's what he's going to be doing in Alpha Rogue. And there will be future books where the Alpha Rogue will be taking on other assignments that are in the interest of the United States government and the American people, but definitely black book off the record.
Yeah. So what's the status of Operation Alpha Rogue, a Mac McDowell mission?
The outline is nearly done, and it will be ready probably in the April time frame.
Okay, great. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that, and I've already seen the cover. I like the cover, so I'm excited and intrigued. That's pretty cool. Now, Robert G. Williscroft is the author we're talking to, and if you want to call in at 516-453-9902, we're here. And also want to, since we're on the Mac McDowell Mission series, which is submarine-based, let's talk about the book Submariner. What's the story behind that? Who's involved? How'd that come about? And what's going on with that?
I served on a couple of submarines, including the USS von Steuben. I had a sonar tech who came aboard as a second-class petty officer, an absolutely astonishing young man, 6'2", way too big to be on a submarine. But he ended up becoming chief of the boat, the senior enlisted man on the sub, and then he was selected for a commissioning program. It ended up, he retired as a Navy lieutenant commander. And I was on his mailing list, and I started getting stories from him about his service on the 2 submarines he served on. I just got these stories by email that he was sending out to his list. I called Jerry up, and I said, Jerry, you got a book here. And he said, no way. Well, I talked him into sending me all of his stories. I went through them, edited them, compiled them, put them together into a coherent series, and we put the book together with 60 stories that are just utterly fascinating. The book's a bestseller, and Jerry's very happy that we did it. Yeah,
he should be. It's even part of his legacy now, which is very important. But as Robert just mentioned, 60 chapters. Wow.
Yeah. And, that he had you to reach out to, or that you reached out to him, really says a lot, because you're a Navy guy yourself, submariner, and you're also a writer, and you know how to get things, put into proper perspective and get them published and whatnot. So bravo to you.
Yeah, the cover, even though it's a painting by our staff artist, Anique, it's authentic. It's got the correct submarine. Is that right, Robert?
Right.
Yeah, in fact, that's true with all of the covers that have submarines on them. Everything's just right, and it's authentic, and those who are familiar should be able to look at those and say, yeah, that's it.
Now, Robert, some of these Jerry Pate stories in there, do you figure into any of them, or were you there when some of these things unfolded?
I was there when a couple of them unfolded, but I don't figure into the stories. Most of them took place after I had left the von Steuben.
Okay. So you weren't there when the spy was living across the street?
No.
Yeah. Now, listeners, we cannot play the trailer for Submariner right now because we don't have it preloaded. We weren't expecting to play that tonight. But if you'll get over to the Fresh Ink Group channel on YouTube, hit the playlist there for trailers, or just go ahead and type in the name of it, and you can find the trailer for Submariner. And that's by retired U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander Jerry Pate with an assist from Robert G. Williscroft. Submariner. It's been performing very well, getting a lot of great reviews. People are enjoying it. So check that out.
You're talking about performing very well. Continuously, that's one of the top sellers. So, that's yeah, definitely since it came out. So it's
and
definitely got legs.
He has 188 reviews, and almost all of them are 5-star.
Yep. And it's just getting going too. That's over the next coming years or so, that will continue to grow. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're talking to Robert G. Williscroft, and now we're going to ask about his science fiction series, The Oort Chronicles. What's going on with that, Robert?
Well, this starts with a book called Icicle, a tensor matrix. You guys were afraid that the subtitle of A Tensor Matrix might scare people away. But it hasn't.
It hasn't.
The story, picture a guy like Elon Musk, wealthy, an engineer, very, very smart, young, who finds that he has terminal cancer. And he decides that when he dies, he's going to have his head cryogenically preserved, frozen. And that's the first part of the book. And then shortly thereafter, in the book, he wakes up about 100 years later in an electronic matrix. He is an icicle, and he is terribly disoriented. It takes him a while to figure out what's going on. A cat plays a role because the people who awaken him, they do some work with a cat named Max for a while, and he ends up befriending the cat in this electronic space. But what Braxton Thorpe, the name of the icicle, what he discovers is that there is another entity, an electronic entity in our solar system, based in the Oort cloud, hence the Oort Chronicles, that's been around longer than the human race. And they inform him that a long time ago, an alien race attacked our solar system and destroyed almost all life on Earth, and they're on their way back to do it again. And that forms the basis for Icicle and Braxton Thorpe's machinations to bring Earth's nations together to present a defense against this alien invasion. And the book ends with the battle scenes, and I won't tell you how it comes out. The second book, The Oort Federation, picks up with Earth forces, humans, and Oort working together, deciding to go to the system that contains the aliens who had attacked us. They find out that everything is not as it seems. They end up creating an alliance with the Asterians from the star Aster and a Russian oligarch who has been a real problem in our solar system, follows them and becomes a problem in that solar system, and battles happen, and eventually a solution is reached. And the humans and the Asterians together build a large spaceship, a large starship that they intend on using to explore the known universe, and they intend on heading out to an area in the cosmic microwave background called a cold spot. They intend to get there and investigate it. The third book, entitled Ran, A Civilization in Hiding, the Andromeda, their starship, stops at a star called Ran. That's the actual name of the star, about 10.5 light years from Earth, and they find a civilization on a planet around that star that is lizard-based, a Saurian civilization that is just beginning space travel, kind of like our days of Apollo. As they arrive in the system, two of these astronauts, a male and a female, lizard astronauts, are in a capsule about to go around their moon. And our people capture them and take them aboard our starships so that when the capsule ends up back around the moon, so that mission control back on the planet Arcan can communicate with it again, they find that their astronauts have disappeared. Mm-hmm. And after doing an exhaustive analysis, they determined there's only one possibility. Their astronauts were abducted by aliens, and of course the aliens are us.
Yeah.
Of course.
The entire story is told from the Asterian point of view, from the lizard civilization's point of view.
Yeah, that's a very cool aspect of it. That's important like that. I really like that.
So it's a complex society with three major political divisions on the planet. There's a freewheeling economy, there's a dictatorship, and there's a theocracy. The theocracy is rather primitive. And that Russian oligarch that showed up in the first and the second book shows up again, and he tries to influence the theocracy by making out as if he were the sun god and getting their attention and using them to gain his own aims and his own goals. And that forms a major conflict nexus of the book.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The next book, several of the astronauts from the Arcan system, from the Ran star system, join the crew of Andromeda, and Andromeda heads out to the Keyed triple star system, another real star. Interestingly, if for any of you out there who are Star Trek fans, the planet Vulcan circles the star Keyed, and my guys go to the planet Vulcan, although it is not as depicted in the Star Trek series.
Yeah.
But what they find in this triple star system is that one of the stars, a civilization way back when, a long time ago, built a Dyson sphere. They enclosed the entire star with a sphere, and the diameter of the sphere is planetary in size. And they find that the Dyson sphere was being built by microbots, and for reasons that they don't understand, these microbots are cannibalizing one part of the sphere to build another part of the sphere, so that there's this gash in the sphere that over long periods of time slowly works its way all around the sphere as the microbots eat up one side and build the other side. They investigate, and they find some primitive civilizations living inside in the life band inside the Keyed sphere. And the novel deals with what they discover, how this Dyson sphere was constructed, the amazing engineering that would have to have taken place to build something like this, planetary in scale, and then they ultimately find uploaded entities of the people who originally built it, and the whole thing then comes to an interesting and satisfying solution.
Oh, cool. Now, all four of these four Chronicle books are out.
Now you've got audiobooks, and I've loved working on these for each of these. So how did these audiobooks come about? Where did you get the idea to do audiobooks? Well, especially for this series, because this series, like I said, I have a lot of fun working on this one.
It became clear to me over time that audiobooks were important. The first audiobook I did was Operation Ivy Bells. This was done by the gent who is the voice of the Oakland A's, or at least he was back then. We didn't have any sound effects or anything like that. We just had a guy doing a really excellent job of presenting the story. And then I met Trenton Bennett, and we started putting together audiobook versions for the rest of my books, including the Ort Chronicles. Trenton Bennett is just utterly amazing. He lays out spreadsheets where he has the characteristics of each voice and the personality of the people involved, and so that his voices stay true from book to book.
Yeah.
And then you guys put sound effects. In the case of the submarine novels, you put submarine sound effects. And in the case of the Ort Chronicles, you are adding appropriate effects as they are important as the story progresses. And we're about halfway through Keyed, a lost civilization right now. And I'm looking forward to getting that done so we can get it out.
All right, yeah. Now, what's next for Ort, for the series?
I
You've got
something
in mind?
I definitely do.
Like emerging?
Yeah.
The Andromeda is headed toward the cold spot in the microwave background. And our physicists, our astrophysicists, have determined that the most likely explanation for this cold spot is that it is an intersection of two parallel universes. If that's true, and for the sake of the books, I assume that it is true, then I made the assumption that my Star Child Saga people are operating in one universe, and my Ort Chronicle people are operating in the other universe. And I have an outline for a story called Beyond the Beyond that ends up being the fifth book of each series, where it combines both series together, where there are alternating chapters at the beginning of the book for each universe, and then at some point they come together and all sorts of things happen, and they end up with threats to the existence of both universes before they finally resolve the problems.
Wow, that's exciting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, well, thank you, Robert. We have been talking to Robert G. Williscroft. He stepped in this evening. I want to throw this out here real quick because Helen Burrell, a regular listener to the show, she's asking what happened to tonight's guest because she promoted him out on her X account. He was a no-show tonight, Helen, and the top 25 is coming up, so hold on tight for that. Thanks for coming in and covering, Robert. We really appreciate that. And you got to push some of your projects coming up and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, it's my pleasure. It's always fun talking with you guys.
All right. Thanks, Robert. All right, let's run through this top 25 print bestsellers list. This is the print bestsellers published by Fresh Ink Group over the past week or so. And we've got a new number one that I'm looking at up here. This is kind of cool. I'm also looking at the bottom of the list here and seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tied. And they are Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow, the hardcover by Nelle Cooper, which we talked about earlier in the show and listened to the commercial. We've got B.A. Johnson, Sassy Discovers the A&E Church. That's the first book in her illustrated chapter book for children about a little girl who learns about her church. And then we've got David Carroll, I Won't Be Your Scapegoat, David Carroll's Homemade Social Media Blunders. This is a fun book. It's one of the 3 that we've published by David. Then you got Andrew McGregor's novel, the paperback edition of How to Paint an American. And above that, we've got How to Start and Run Your Own Food Truck Business in Florida. That's by A.K. Wingler. And then we've got Operation Ivy Bells, a Mac McDowell mission by Robert G. Williscroft, paperback edition. And the other 3 that are tied, The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip, the hardcover edition by Mark Herndon. And here's a fun one, Beam. We've got Ellie Collins's Daisy, Bold and Beautiful.
Wow.
That's the first book in her Greek mythology series. It's 3 novels that she wrote when she was 11, 12, and 13.
Yeah.
And they're targeted at middle schoolers, middle graders, and with an emphasis on probably interested from girls. And that's pretty cool to see it climbing up the list again here.
Yeah, because it's been a while, and that's the series that we did the audio books for too, and that was a lot of fun. So
and the other book that's in this group that's tied right now is The Hippocampus, the interactive brain book, fun learning for science lovers by Dr. Helen Burrell. So those are the ones who are tied. And now as we move up the list, the next group has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tied for the next slot. Those are A Noble Bargain by Jan Sykes. What is that book, Beam?
A Noble Bargain. That is the book 2 in the Bargainers series by Jan. And this is an award-winning book. She just won the the Page Turners Award for historical fiction. Yeah. So congratulations to Jan on that. And that's she's working hard at work on book 3 in that series.
Yeah. Now the hardcover edition of that book is in this same group of tied books. So both the hardcover and the softcover are next up on our list. And then also in that group, we've got Dealing with Grief by Verwain Greenhoe. We've got A Noble Bargain, which is we've got 2 A Noble Bargains and 1 a beggar's bargain, all tied for the same spot in this group right here. And then we've got Pandemonium in Puzzle Town by B.A. Johnson. It's another illustrated chapter book for children. This one's not about the church, but it's an allegory about inclusion and acceptance. And now as we move up the list, the numbers start going up. We've got Mr. President, I've Got Your Back, The First Ladies of South Carolina State University by Abigail H. Ugini and Mary L. Smalls, who were both former First Ladies of South Carolina State University. That book has been performing very well, and that's the hardcover edition that's making our list. Moving up the list, the next two books are both the hardcover and paperback edition with the exact same sales numbers. That's kind of unusual, but this is by Braden Dexter Green. It's called Trains of Alabama, Short Lines, Rail Yards, Engines, Heritage Units, Railfan Photos, and more. And this is a whole lot of really cool photography by a 14-year-old who made a summer project to put together this book. Now, the numbers keep going up here. We've got Loretta Spencer, A Passion for Service, a candid memoir by the first woman mayor of Huntsville, Alabama, and that's by Loretta Spencer. This is the paperback edition. This book's only been out for about 2 weeks now, and it's starting to take off as well. Now, we mentioned earlier retired U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander Jerry Pate. He's way up on this list with Submariner, 30 Years of Hijinks and Keeping the Fleet Afloat. That would be in the number 6 slot. And it's also it's tied with Crimes and the People Who Commit Them, Fiction with Conviction by the Guy Who Did the Time, and that's by former prisoner Phil Lippert. That's a very cool book, too. Now,
another excellent book right there.
Yeah, now this gets us to our top 5. What's happening in the top 5 this week? Well, now here's a bit of a surprise. Operation Counterpunch by Mark Marlowe. That's the only book we've put out by him. He's up there in Alaska. And this is a kind of a thriller, combination thriller and kind of a personal story, too, about escaping a prisoner of war camp and building a new life and stuff like that. So Operation Counterpunch, and that book's been out 5-6 years, I think, something like that. So it's fun to see these books surge every now and then. And congratulations, Mark Marlowe. You've got the number 5 slot right now. You're right behind Loretta Spencer, the hardcover edition of her A Passion for Service, a candid memoir by the first woman mayor of Huntsville, Alabama. So that one's climbing up the list, too. And that brings us to our top 3, Beam. Number 2 and 3 are the same book, hardcover and paperback. And the hardcover is actually outselling the paperback, and these are by Janelle A. Jordan. We published her book, Minority Millennials in the Workforce, and this is her second book, The Reality of Interpersonal Leadership, A Guide to Leading Authentically. It's kind of a workbook, kind of a journal, kind of a place to record some things, and so basically it's to develop your leadership skills, especially in a professional setting. And that's by Janelle A. Jordan, grabbing our number 2 and 3 slots this week. Congratulations, Janelle. That leads us to number 1. Number 1's Nelle Cooper. Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow, the paperback edition of her first novel in 15, 20 years after she put out Princess Lilith, chapter book for children. So Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow. We're glad to see you out there hustling it, Nell, doing the events, doing the signings, getting the word out, even getting your mail person to get a copy and read it. So congratulations, Nelle Cooper. You've got the number 1 slot this week with Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow.
All right. Fantastic.
All right. So you want to roll the newsletter thing, Beam, and then we'll kind of run through what other books we got going and give this thing a wrap.
All righty. We can do that.
Stay on top of these podcasts and all things Fresh Ink Group with our weekly digital newsletter. New releases, videos, stories, excerpts, interviews, and more. Sign up now on the homepage of freshinkgroup.com and be the one who knows what's what.
What's what? Yeah, now we're going to run through a couple more books here that we have released in the past 3 or 4 weeks or less, and those that we have loaded up, we'll go ahead and play the trailer for them. So, Beam, let's start with Journey Through the Lens, Creative Guide to Wildlife Photography by Angie Birmingham.
All right. Let me find that. Here we go. All right.
In Journey Through the Lens, Creative Guide to Wildlife Photography, celebrated wildlife photographer Angie Birmingham introduces burgeoning photo takers to their photo equipment and helps them develop the techniques for stunning outdoor photography. From mastering exposure to optimizing focus and lighting, Angie shows how to find the right style to tell visual stories and present compelling images. Learn landscape composition along with the best ways to shoot animals, birds, and flowers. Find out how skilled photographers capture all the details while manipulating backgrounds and moods. Order a digital copy in your favorite ebook format or collect a print edition in full-size paperback or cased laminate hardcover. Available worldwide from your favorite bookseller. From newcomers to professionals, everybody who loves taking wildlife pictures will thrill at how easy Angie Birmingham makes it for you to continue your own journey through the lens.
Boy, that's an excellent book. You want to learn how to do
cool
nifty things? Yeah, that's just great.
Yeah, you're going to see some cool pictures, and she tells you how to take them yourself. So you're going to learn. Now, next up is Trains of Alabama, another book of photographs by a young, talented photographer, Braden Dexter Green. And this includes an intro by Angie Birmingham, who you just heard, her book, Journey Through the Lens. They got together and they kind of bonded over photography, and she wrote the intro for Trains of Alabama. And this is a cool book. If you're into trains, that's a lot of people. These are the ones who are buying it, people who are train fans. And the pictures are cool, but then Braden offers you a little bit of history on some of these trains, or little factoids. So you're going to learn something too.
Teenager Braden Dexter Green has traveled North Alabama, collecting photos of his favorite trains and railroad settings. From the peculiar freight engines of Amtrak, to the beautiful heritage units of Norfolk Southern, to the new rebuilds of CSX locomotives, Braden chronicles both the commonplace and unusual trains crisscrossing the state, carrying passengers and freight in Trains of Alabama. He takes a close look at some notable short lines, such as the Alabama and Tennessee River Railroad out of Gadsden and the Huntsville and Madison County Railroad Authority, which locks down its engines in the downtown area of Huntsville. Backgrounds include Birmingham's famous Sloss furnaces and several notable rail yards, including the CSX Boyles Yard in Tarrant, the Norfolk Southern Norris Yard in Irondale, and the BNSF East Thomas Yard in Birmingham. Featuring an introduction by renowned wildlife photographer and author of Journey Through the Lens, Angie Birmingham, Trains of Alabama is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group worldwide in a case laminate hardcover edition with premium color printing, a glossy softcover edition with standard color, and all ebook editions. Order copies for yourself and fans of railroad photography. It's the images that are the stars here, those mighty trains that move the world, even as they inspire the passions of one teen who shares his favorites in Trains of Alabama.
Yeah, I want to add something on that book too. If you know a rail fan, somebody who's really into trains, this is the kind of book that they would like, because Braden knows his trains. I kind of envision this as, a teenager going out and just taking cool pictures of cool looking trains, but he tracks particular heritage units, specific engines and things like that across the country, and plans for when they're going to cross through Alabama so that he can be there to get a picture of them. Many of the pictures in this book, it's the only engine of its kind left, or it's the only kind that's got a certain paint scheme, which they call livery, or things like that as well. So if you know a rail fan who's really into identifying, wow, that's the BNSF engine that they bought from CSX and painted green or whatever, that kind of stuff is in this book. So this is for true rail fans, as well as for people who are casual fans of just liking to see cool trains. Everybody likes to see trains, right, Beem? Unless you're in a hurry. Yeah. All right, we've got Carlisle Toms. We've put out 4 books by him now, and most recently we put out Sunrise Over the Pumpkin Patch, and we were preparing to put out The Gulls Are Always Laughing. Now, his first 3 books that we put out were novels. The Gulls Are Always Laughing is short fiction and essays and poetry. And it's called The Gulls Are Always Laughing, and we've got a commercial for that, Beem?
We do, and it's right here.
The Gulls Are Always Laughing by Carlisle Thoms is poetry about transition from trauma and turmoil through relationships to spirituality and the ability to laugh at one's troubles. We have all fought through anguish, hopefully to become better citizens. The poetry covers Carlisle's formative years, growing up with abuse on a farm in the Ozarks, his adult relationships, and his transition to life on the shores of the coastal bend of Texas. He bears his heart and soul on these pages, but he hopes to bear witness to there being a better way, and it is always possible to overcome and rise above. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, The Gulls Are Always Laughing is available in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats at your favorite retailers worldwide. The Gulls Are Always Laughing by Carlisle Thoms.
And keep your eyes out for the book trailer for that one. That's coming soon. I'm getting ready to start that one, and we're getting all the pieces to put together for that. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. And up next is Jan Sykes' A Noble Bargain. That's out now, as I mentioned a little while ago. A Beggar's Bargain just won the Page Turners Award for the Best Historical Fiction. So that's really cool. Jan has just, really turned into a strong, stellar writer. So congratulations, a well-earned honor for that. And we're going to play the commercial for her book 2 of the Bargainer series, A Noble Bargain.
A true testament of character, resilience, and the magic of never giving up. The year is 1948. And folks in the sawmill town of Crossett, Arkansas, work hard and play hard. Oliver Quinn does both. Oliver is the son of Irish immigrants who firmly believe in pursuing the American dream. His deepest desire is to play Major League Baseball. He only needs one chance to prove himself. Rose Blaine is living in a nightmare where dreams don't exist. She's suffered for years at the hands of her violent moonshiner father and his partner. During a brutal attack, she must fight back or die. The aftermath is devastating. Fueled by desperation, Rose strikes a life-changing bargain with Oliver. If he'll take her and her brother to St. Louis, Missouri, she'll introduce Oliver to her uncle, a baseball legend. While their journey is fraught with unseen perils, they forge an unbreakable bond and make surprising allies. When destiny throws them a curveball, they must find the courage to create a hopeful future out of the ashes of shattered dreams with newfound fortitude. Read A Noble Bargain, Book 2 following A Beggar's Bargain in the Bargainer series by best-selling author Jan Sykes. A Beggar's Bargain and A Noble Bargain are available worldwide from multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. The Bargainer series by Jan Sykes.
All right. Yeah, there, Mr. Jeeves?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to bring a phone caller in.
Okay, I thought you were going to do the Loretta Spencer one. So, because that's next on the list.
We don't even have it loaded. I was only doing the trailers.
Okay. All right, so we do have a caller calling in. This is author Nelle Cooper, and we talked about some of her books earlier. So her book, Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow. Welcome to the show, Nelle. You there?
Yes, I'm here, and I just got this message. I had company all day, and I just got this message on my text, so I grabbed my phone and called. I was mixed up last night. I listened to the whole program last night. So bear with me here.
Yeah, we've been winging it, Nell, because our guest did not make it tonight. So we've just been taking some phone calls, playing some trailers, and we're down now to we're almost out of time. So we're glad you called in because we're curious about. I don't know. Did you hear the top 25 list?
No, I didn't. I just tuned in.
Yeah, number one is a paperback edition of a book called Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so you made number one, and we've been bragging about you getting out there and promoting and even getting your mail person to get a copy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what kind of stuff you have been doing?
Well, actually, right now I'm contemplating going to the school. I've been really encouraged by people, because it's historical and it's local, to take it to the school and get the literature, English lit or history classes, to read it. So this next week I'm going to be going to my alumni, which is Mott Community College and U of M Flint. And as an alumnus, I'm going to go there, and then I'm going to go to my local high school. I also contacted the school board, and I'm going to be contacting my local legislator. So I'm not sure just what's going to happen, but I'm gonna go out there and see what I can do.
Well, that would be great. And you've got a bookstore in town now that's selling your book?
Yes, I do. It's a used bookstore, and I'm finding that the used bookstores do carry local authors, new published, new books by local authors. So, and because it's a historical, I'm finding out antique stores will take it too. So,
cool.
So yes, so I have it available in an antique store in Emily City. It's called 4th Street Antiques, and it's available at the bookstore in Emily City. It's available at the bookstore in Lapeer, and it's available at the bookstore in Davison. These are all used bookstores. Excuse me. So it's been kind of interesting with my other book, Princess Lil. That put me in contact with horse rescue groups, dog rescue groups, cat rescue groups. It put me in touch with horse therapy groups. I mean, I was amazed. When I wrote the book, I didn't think those kind of links would happen, and they did. So it's
fantastic.
It's interesting to see what kind of doors open. But because go ahead.
With you getting out there and meeting people, I mean, so this is, I'm guessing, where you meet a lot of these people. What are the people saying about the books, be it Princess Lil or Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow?
Well, the Nowhere to Go Tomorrow, I haven't gotten anything but 5-star reviews from everybody. Everybody
wow.
that reads it.
Well deserved.
My sister, well deserved. I have good editors. I have a good support team. My sister-in-law, who has not read a book since high school, she's 82. She's not read a book since high school, and she said she couldn't put it down because she wanted to know what happened next. So that was pretty amazing. And then my son made a suggestion to what he thought maybe should have happened in the story, and I just kind of looked at him and laughed because he was talking like they were real people.
That's a good thing.
Like 2 months after he read it, he's telling me, you know what you could have done? So,
and all that power you wield.
Well, what I'm hoping is with all these children now in their parents' home and getting mainstreamed and so forth, I'm hoping that people will read this book and look around at their own neighborhood and see if there's a family that needs some support. Pick them up a Starbucks coffee. Stop by, say hi.
Yeah.
This is a 24/7 task when you have children with special needs, and they just need support.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little kindness goes a long way.
Yeah.
Well, again, this is Nelle Cooper. She called in to check in with us, and her book, Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow, it's a historical novel, is our #1 print bestseller at Fresh Ink Group this week. Congratulations again, Nelle.
Thank you, Fresh Ink.
Yeah. And thanks for calling in. One last thing about that book. Are people not liking the cover or what?
Oh, my gosh. That sells the book. They pick up the cover. They look at the book. There is one man in town who works at the local drugstore, and he was a resident of the home, and he's been independent for many years now. But he came up to me and he said, "So what's her name?" And I said, "Who?" he said, that girl on the cover. I gave him a book. He said, that girl on the cover, I might know her.
Oh.
I said, oh, don't know her, but thank you.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well, again, the book is Nowhere to Go But Tomorrow. The author is Nelle Cooper, who's also the author of Princess Lil, a chapter book for children. And thanks for calling in, Nelle.
Oh,
thank you, Nelle.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
All right. Now, what's going on in the coming weeks with podcasts, Beem?
Well, next week we're going to have a rerun. We're going to be off because it's the night before Thanksgiving, and people are going to be out and about and doing stuff. So we're going to run a rerun, and it's going to be Karen Ingalls and the late Carol Tucker. This is from August of 2021, and it's a really good interview. Fantastic book that Karen had helped Carol put together before Carol passed away. In fact, Carol passed away shortly after this podcast. She was she was dealing with cancer, and we're fortunate enough that we got her in here, and she was able to talk, from her heart about what this book that she had going on. So, and then after that, we're going to do Mr. G's is going to do the show from On the Road, and that's the first Wednesday of December, and we're lining people up right now. We've got Loretta Spencer coming in, Braden Dexter Green eventually, and the holiday shows for December. And we're looking at a new blog platform, podcast platform, because at the end of January, Blog Talk Radio is going to cease operations. And whether we wanted to stick around or not, it doesn't matter at this point because they're going away. And we're looking at Spreaker, one of those sites like that, and we still have to get in there and play around with their studio and see what they offer. But so if you're subscribed to the newsletter, keep looking at it, as it comes in, because we're gonna give you some updates there, and we'll let you know. So.
Yeah. Now, our guest tonight, who was scheduled, Dave Hooker, who's a sports writer, and we put out his book about the Tennessee Vols. We're not quite sure what the problem was tonight, but we do want to mention his book that he would have been here promoting. It's Celebrate 98, The Untold Stories Behind the Tennessee Football Vols 1998 National Championship. Now, those of you who are into college football know that Tennessee is doing really well right now, very well. This is going to be a great season for them. So Tennessee Vols football fans, college football fans, or just people who like cool books full of cool pictures. That's Celebrate 98, The Untold Stories Behind the Tennessee Football Vols 1998 National Championship by sports writer Dave Hooker. All right. Thanks for coming to the show, everybody, and for bearing with us while we had to try to wing it a little bit. But we're looking forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving, since we won't be here next week.
Yeah. Take care.
Take care.
You're listening to The Voice of Indy.
Dave Hooker here, longtime Tennessee sports writer, and I know that true Tennessee fans are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the legendary 1998 Tennessee Volunteers championship season. Tell you what, in Celebrate 98, I try to bring the full color photos and detail the transfer of power from Peyton Manning to Al Wilson, the preparation to win the first BCS National Championship, the locker room dynamics, and the challenges of a team rising above deep tragedy. Key plays include interception, a fumble maybe against Arkansas, and a bit of trickeration. Also, there's that Florida game. I analyze the leadership, the strategies, and the players' commitment to each other, and share what we are still learning from this team even today. Discover what happened to those heroes of the gridiron and where they are now. Proudly published by the Fresh Ink Group, Celebrate 98 is available in all the digital forms, but you can also get your own softcover or jacketed hardcover keepsake edition from booksellers worldwide. Want an autographed edition? Go to offthehooksports.com. That's offthehooksports.com, and I'll personalize it for you. Celebrate 98 is a collector's item and a cherished gift that belongs to all fans of college football and the Tennessee Volunteers.
You've been a part of Voice of Indy, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at freshinkgroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.